There is a force within you that operates in silence, shaping your life without you realizing it. This force carries everything you have rejected, hidden, or denied within yourself. Desires, impulses, thoughts, fears, traits that your ego refuses to admit. Carl Jung called this force the shadow, and it does not disappear just because you decided to ignore it. On the contrary, the more you try to bury it, the more it grows in power, operating behind the scenes of your consciousness, determining your reactions, your choices, your way of seeing the world. You criticize others, judge their flaws, get irritated by behaviors you consider intolerable. But what you do not realize is that often this irritation is not about the other, it is about you. It is your shadow screaming for recognition. Every flaw you accuse out there is an unrecognized part of what resides within you, and as long as you continue projecting your darkness onto others, you will remain a prisoner of an unconscious cycle that governs your life without your permission. It is a cruel and inevitable process. What you refuse to integrate into your consciousness ends up taking control of your destiny. What you despise most in others will be exactly what you manifest in yourself, often without even realizing it. Not out of malice, not out of weakness, but because ignoring the shadow is signing an invisible contract, the contract to be governed by what you refuse to face. This video is for those who have courage, for those who are tired of pointing the finger outward and truly want to begin the most difficult and liberating process of existence, the confrontation with their own soul. Do not expect this path to be easy. You will have to face your deepest fears, recognize feelings you have always considered shameful, accept impulses you preferred to believe did not exist. But the reward is non-negotiable: emotional freedom, personal growth, real maturity. You are not made to live in war with yourself. The shadow that today sabotages you, frightens you, and manipulates you can and must be integrated. The choice is yours. Either you face what is hidden in your soul, or you will be consumed by what you refuse to see. Today, I will show you the way to break this cycle. But know this from the start: those who traverse the darkness of themselves never return to being the same. The shadow is not what most people imagine. It is not simply the bad side of the personality. It is not an internal demon to be exterminated, nor a curse to be fought against. Carl Jung saw the shadow as a vital part of the human psyche, a hidden territory where all the aspects that your ego, conditioned by society, family, and your own expectations, decided to hide, rest. Since childhood, you have been taught that certain behaviors are acceptable, while others are unacceptable. You learned to smile when you wanted to cry, to be kind when you wanted to scream, to suppress your anger, your ambition, your fear, your sensuality, your vulnerability. Everything that did not fit the mask you were forced to wear, you pushed into the basement of your mind. And that basement, this collection of renegade pieces of yourself, is what Jung called the shadow. But here lies the truth that few have the courage to accept. The shadow is not only made of violent impulses or destructive desires. It also holds your creative strength, your forgotten passion, your suffocated courage, your lost spontaneity. The shadow carries both your capacity for destruction and your potential for transformation. Ignoring it is choosing to live a mutilated life. Integrating it is accepting the totality of your existence. When you understand the shadow, you understand that the human being is not only light, but also darkness, and that denying this darkness is renouncing your very life force. The shadow contains the keys to your self-knowledge, to your emotional growth, to the building of true maturity. But these keys can only be earned through the brutal courage to look within without masks, without excuses, without pity. Without the integration of the shadow, the psyche becomes unbalanced. Repressed energy becomes corrosive, fueling symptoms such as anxiety, depression, outbursts of anger, compulsions, sabotages, and a sense of existential emptiness. The ignored shadow does not disappear. It simply finds other, more painful and self-destructive ways to manifest. And it is precisely here that emotional projection comes into play. When you do not recognize your own shadow, your unconscious takes it upon itself to show it to you, using others as a mirror. In the next part, we will deeply explore how this mechanism operates in your daily life, and how it relentlessly reveals what you most try to hide from yourself. When you do not see what exists within yourself, the world becomes a mirror. But not a clear mirror, rather a distorted one, filtered through the lenses of the unconscious. Carl Jung called this projection the mechanism by which the repressed contents of the psyche, that is, your unrecognized shadow, are projected onto others. You do not see them in yourself, so your unconscious pushes them outward. And this is how the behavior of others begins to bother you more than it should, awakening disproportionate, irrational, and often inexplicable reactions. Emotional projection is a brutally common phenomenon, but rarely understood. You feel anger towards someone for being arrogant, but deep down, it is your own suppressed need to assert yourself. You judge someone for being selfish, when in fact, it is you who live swallowing desires and accumulating resentment for never putting yourself first. You get irritated with people who express themselves too much because perhaps you learned early on that expressing emotions is a sign of weakness. The other becomes the stage where your unconscious acts out everything you have not had the courage to face within yourself. That is the point. Projection is not a conscious choice. It is a psychic defense. The ego, to preserve itself, needs to keep intact the image it has constructed of itself. So, everything that threatens that image, everything that goes against the character you believe you are, is expelled into the external world. And you start to see monsters in others without realizing that you are, in fact, fleeing from your own reflections. How many relationships have you destroyed by not realizing that the problem was not the other person, but the way they activated your shadow? How many times have you distanced yourself from someone without being able to explain exactly why, just because that presence made you feel something you could not name? How many times have you hated someone who, unwittingly, embodied what you fought hardest to keep buried? Projection turns the world into a battlefield, but this war happens within you. It blinds you,